Duelists, good and bad, casual and competitive, serious and meme, rogue and meta. Our time has finally come. The announcement of the Yugioh Speed Duel Academy box. Welcome to a brand new series that's becoming tradition on Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy. What's in the box GX edition? Hey guys, Adding Terramaster here. I just want to let you know real quick that this video and this entire series was recorded before the Speed Duel skill erratas. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about might not be relevant anymore. I try to cut out or fast forward a lot of that stuff, but if some of it still got left in there, just know that that's why it was recorded beforehand. But yeah, hope you like the prediction series and let me know what you think in the comments. Oh yeah. Hey Legacy community, it's Terramaster. Welcome to What's in the Box GX edition, also known as What's in the BoGX. And of course, episode 1 has to be the boy, the main character, the protagonist, if you will, of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Jaden Yuki, user of one elemental hero archetype, one of my favorite archetypes have ever, includes the mascot for this channel, and at the time of recording, the only actually revealed card, because of the image of the box, of elemental hero Flame Wingman, the freaking mascot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy channel, is the first monster, the first card revealed, and that is so freaking hype. What better place to start? Flame Wingman, anime iconic, was played in the first episode of GX, absolutely won him the duel. Stupid good card, not stupid good card, I love this card, and we have the materials for it, and let's just get right into it. So, we talked about Flame Wingman already, obviously why that's going to be in the box, and we know it is already. So that's not really a prediction. And with the inclusion of Flame Wingman, some things become very obvious, like Avion and Vercinatrix, which are the fusion materials to create Flame Wingman. And they are also iconic to the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime in their own right. As is Elemental Hero Clayman and Elemental Hero Sparkman. Those 4 vanilla heroes are almost guaranteed to be in a GX box. And then Jaden plays those cards a lot, so we move on to some other cards that Jaden used quite frequently in the anime, specifically Season 1. We've got Elemental Hero Blade Edge, Elemental Hero Bubbleman, Elemental Hero Wild Heart, and Elemental Hero Necro Shade. All those cards were very heavily played by Jaden in multiple duels in that first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, the anime. There are some other cards that are non-heroes that he played as well, and like hero support cards and things like that. We'll get to those. I want to get through all the elemental heroes first, so we're kind of going to go away from the anime a little bit. And we're going to go to other elemental heroes that I feel like are either not too powerful to be put into the game right now, or are iconic enough to the TCG and to the Yu-Gi-Oh! And to the sense of nostalgia that I think Speed Duels kind of wants to try to capture. So we've got Elemental Hero Blazeman here. Now, this is important because Blazeman is very good if they want to promote any kind of a fusion meta-ish. Blazeman is very important because on summon, now normal or special, which is what's cool about it, doesn't matter, so you can like special summon it, float into it, whatever you need to do. It searches that polymerization and it really reduces the amount of minus you would get from a normal fusion summon. So that's really good. That's why Blazeman is very important. And it's not just that. Blazeman also has a second effect where you can actually send a hero monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it actually can also serve as kind of a foolish burial, which is really good. Also, although you can only use one of those effects per turn. So like if you search for the poly, you can't use the burial effect. If you do the burial, you can't. That means you would have had to skip out on the poly when you summoned it. Then you have Elemental Hero Captain Gold, which is, for one thing, a level 4 2100 beater, but it has a restriction, which you can't just like drop it on the field unless you have Skyscraper. The field spell he's associated with on the field as well. We'll get to that, but the good thing about Captain Gold is that a copy of it can also be used to go ahead and search that skyscraper. So if you can somehow use one Captain Gold to search the skyscraper, you can summon a second one if you have it, or if you can somehow recycle it to your hand, we have tools to do that, like Warrior Returning Alive. There's also a card in here we'll get to in a minute. We've got Elemental Hero Heat getting all fired up here. This is purely a beatdown hero. I don't know if this card has much competitive value. It's just one of those cards that is probably going to be included. Let me move this here real quick. I want Lady Heat to be next to her boy Heat here. Lady Heat is kind of the same. It's really just one of those cards that's like, it's not a strong hero by any means, but it probably will make the box just kind of as like box filler sort of stuff. Now, there are a lot of spells and traps that I thought could be box filler that I didn't want to talk about, but like monsters, I tried to cover most of them just because. You've got Ice Edge, which if it inflicts bad damage to your opponent, you pop a set back row. And then it actually allows, its other ability actually allows you to attack directly by discarding a card. So it's not terrible, it's kind of back removal. I mean, it's a water hero, which could be useful when we get to the fusions. Speaking of water heroes though, the much better one is absolutely in this little Jaden prediction deck that I have. Element Hero, Ocean. And Ocean is actually a very, very, very good value producer if you can keep it alive for that one turn, or if you can somehow have some shenanigans to special summon it during your opponent's turn or during their end phase, or honestly even before its effect will go off in your standby phase, in your draw phase. Like anytime if you manage to have it on the field during your standby phase, it will generate insane value to you, especially if combined with a few of the cards we're going to get to, including one Elemental Hero, Solid Soldier. Because Solid Soldier on normal summon special summons another hero from your hand, and then if it's sent to the graveyard by a spell effect, i.e. if it's used for a polymerization fusion, you target a hero monster in your graveyard that's not Solid Soldier, so whatever you fused it with, and that is what you can special summon in defense mode. And it's only once per turn, which is cool. But the thing I was talking about was, look, you use Solid Soldier's effect, right? You span the field kind of a little bit in that way. And then if you have an Ocean, you just go ahead and recycle that Solid Soldier on your next turn. This could potentially give you insane amounts of value, just these two cards, and there's more to come. So we've got Element Hero Voltic, which is another one of those okay ones. It targets a banished Element Hero monster if it does damage to your opponent, and you special summon a banished hero, which is, it's fine. I mean, it's a good combo with something like Miracle Fusion, which we'll get to. It's got Element Hero Woodsman in here, which I think is almost definitely going to be there. It's like a Clayman with an effect. I mean, obviously Clayman, specifically being Clayman, matters for some fusions, but Woodsman is a like constant polymerization recycler. It's kind of like fusion recycling plant, which we already have, but in a monster. I've got Elemental Hero Prisma in here. Now this one, there might be some doubt as to whether or not we'll get it, but it's my honest opinion that we need this card for fusion decks to be viable, unless there's like a completely insane fusion skill that comes in the box. Prisma is something that's actually probably necessary for fusion decks to keep up with the current meta of Speed Duel. Speaking of necessary to keep up with the meta and value generation, Elemental Hero Stratos. This is probably the most played Elemental Hero in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not probably, I can almost guarantee this is the most played Elemental Hero in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? Look at, even if my predictions are right, look at the insane search targets you have with Stratos. You have Prisma, you have Solid Soldier, and you have Ocean. And with Solid Soldier, this combo is actually ridiculous. And I'll show you once the cards leak, and it's like, these cards are confirmed, if they are, I'll show you like play tests and all that. I don't want to do that right now, so this is just a prediction video. But like, you could theoretically do Rhoda, right, which we already have. So you don't even need to get a new search card, which I'll get into, right? You get your Stratos, and if you have your Solid Soldier or your Stratos, you get the other one, right? Or you don't even need that. You get your Stratos, you summon your Solid Soldier. Solid Soldier's effect lets you special Stratos. Stratos activates on special to either pop a back row or lets you search for literally whatever else you want. And then assume you have some way to fuse, whether that's a new skill, fusion party, polymerization. Boom, you've fused. And then Solid Soldier's effect special summons Stratos from the graveyard. I guess that wouldn't work with fusion party. This is not a spell effect. So we're doing poly here, right? Stratos comes back from the graveyard, and you can search off of that Stratos again, which you can actually use if it's not limited, which I don't think it will be since Speed Duels has not limited anything yet. Stratos will go ahead and then search for a second Stratos to set you up for next turn. That kind of value generation, ending with a Stratos in defense mode, a fusion monster, and then a Stratos as your engine ready to go next turn, is actually insane, and I think is actually necessary to make heroes generate enough value to keep up with all the OTK nonsense we have going on in Speed Duels right now. Then you have Card Trooper here. This is just a card that Jaden played in the anime, and it's also like a card that is probably a decent time to go ahead and introduce it to Speed Duels. I mean, it gives you a little mill option, and it can turn into a 1900 beater if you mill 3 cards. And when it's destroyed, you get to, and sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card. So it's a decent draw power too, so you can just like set it, have your opponent run over and draw a card. Kind of Dekoichi in that way, but it's like a better Dekoichi, right? Because A, it's not flip, it just has to be destroyed in any way whatsoever. B, you can actually go to 1900 to run over something if you need that, or to do damage. And then C, you can actually mill if you need to mill for whatever reason, whether that's to set up your graveyard for some kind of zombie shenanigans and stuff we already have. And then there's stuff in here like Miracle Fusion, Necrogardner, which I'll get into in a minute. We've got King of the Swamp though, which kind of goes a lot with the heroes, and I'm pretty sure Jaden played this card as well. And King of the Swamp can not only search a polymerization, but it also allows you to play less of the like quote unquote bad heroes. Like you could, for example, if you want to summon Flame Wingman, you don't have to play Avion and Bersertrix. You could just play King of the Swamp instead of one of them. And that is actually really good for deck building, because it allows you to play a very versatile card and not have to worry about playing some of these, so-called bad monsters that you don't necessarily want to draw into in most situations. So Necrogardner, as promised, is a attack negator. If it's in your graveyard, it banishes itself to negate one attack. Now, Wing Karibo is fine. I mean, it's just another stall card. If it's destroyed, keyword there. So now if it's tributed, we were talking about Conflict and Cocoon just now. You take no damage from rest of your turn, so it's an okay stall card. And then we have Wing Karibo level 10, which is summoned only by the use of Transcendent Wings. So let me go ahead and do Transcendent Wings now, because we might as well, right? You send a Wing Karibo you control and 2 cards from your hand or graveyard to summon a Wing Karibo level 10 from your hand or deck. And Wing Karibo level 10, played by Jaden in that one duel against Chaz, if you remember from the anime, it tributes itself during your opponent's battle phase. It destroys as many attack losers monster your opponent controls as possible, so Mirror Force, and then you inflict damage to them equal to combined attack losers monsters. So really, I mean, if your opponent has Wing Karibo level 10, don't go to your battle phase with a bunch of big stuff on the board, essentially. Like, it's a powerful effect, sure, but first of all, it's hard to summon, because you need Wing Karibo, Transcendent Wings, and 2 more cards, and then you drop this thing, and then your opponent can just play around it if they're smart enough. So it's not going to be competitive. It's just something worth mentioning because Jaden played it. Speaking of Rottweiler, probably same thing. Okay, it's just for a battle. You get an element of hero and a polymerization in your graveyard, add to your hand. It's fusion recovery on a monster. It's essentially worse because you have to set it and wait for it to be destroyed by battle or suicide it into something. But Jaden played it, so we're probably getting it. It's box filler. Nothing else to say. Here's something that I want to talk about though, and that's H-E-R-O and Hero Flash. So we got H-Heated Heart, which on its own is a terrible card. It gives a monster 500 attack and piercing until the end phase. You'd waste an entire card on that? No, you wouldn't. Emergency Call. It adds a elemental hero monster from your deck to your hand. So this is what I was talking about. Like with we already have Rhoda. If we get Stratos, which I think heroes need to generate enough value to be competitive, unless there's just an insane hero skill that makes them not need it. But Emergency Call, Rhoda, and Stratos, all at 3, is 9 cards with which you can search for heroes. And Stratos searches itself. So you could thin your deck very, very quickly if you get all these cards available to us. Then you've got Our Righteous Justice. which is more back row hate specifically to heroes. Now, what's really good about Our Righteous Justice specifically is it does not target. So let's say I have the Stratos and Solid Soldier on the field, right? And my opponent has 3 back row. If I activate Our Righteous Justice, it doesn't say target cards. It just straight up says to destroy them. You destroy them immediately. There's no comma or semicolon on this card for the effect to have 2 parts to it. So your opponent either chains as soon as you activate it and they have no idea what you're going to destroy, or they let it go and you get to destroy whichever 2 of those 3 cards you want, and they can't change. They can't chain once you've selected which cards you're going to destroy. And then there's O Oversoul for the O, which is special summons element hero normal monster in the graveyard. The best target for this, for my prediction, is Sparkman, if you want to build a Sparkman centric deck. So it's not great. I do want to mention the boy here, Elemental Hero Neo, since we're on it. This would be a very good target for O Oversoul. However, I discussed with a couple of people, and it seems to, like, most people seem to believe that this deck is going to focus more on like the early heroes, so season 1 and the beginning of season 2, and not necessarily go into Neos and Neospacians. So I'm assuming that's going to be a starter or structure deck some point down the line, where it's going to be like the Neospace starter deck, right? Comes to speed duels or whatever. Right, so that's just something there. So O Oversoul may not have the best targets right now. You've got Hero Flash, which combines those 4 cards. If they're all in your graveyard, you banish them and you get any element hero no monster from your deck. In addition, they can attack your opponent directly this turn. Now, this is probably a meme. However, this is one of those things that could potentially have a skill that makes it good. All these cards, honestly. Now, E and R are probably just good on their own. But to make Hero Flash and H and O worth playing, you probably need a very, very good skill, which is possible. We've seen crazy things happen in speed duels, where things that like Serpent Knight Dragon and Moth became meta when nobody predicted they would, just because of the skill, right? So anything is possible. Now let's get back to cards that are actually good. We've got a Hero Lives. Now this card is so good, it is limited in the TCG, as you can see right there. If you control no face-up monsters, you pay half your LP and special summon one elemental hero monster, a level 4 or lower hero from your deck. Now this could potentially be so good to turbo out your fusion plays, because if you get Stratos, obviously it's insane, right? But even if you just use it to summon Blazeman, that special summon gives you a poly. So you've essentially turboed out a Blazeman. You haven't normal summoned yet, and now you have a material in Blazeman potentially, and a polymerization ready to go. It's 2 pieces of the puzzle for literally no cost, right? You've plussed off of that, which is really, really good. Then you have Fifth Hope, which is kind of a pot of avarice for elemental heroes, for those of you who played the TCG back in the good old days. You have to have 5 hero cards in your graveyard, elemental heroes. You shuffle them to your deck, you draw 2 cards. And then if you didn't have anything else on your field when you activated, you draw 3 instead. I mean, like, I don't think the meta is going to be slow enough for a card like this to be good, but I would like to have it, and I think we're going to get it as an option just in case something like that does happen, because the Solid Soldier Stratos thing I talked about, that cycle and like Prisma type of stuff, right? Even Blazeman's burial effect, you might actually be able to fill up your graveyard fairly quickly. So maybe having one as a tech card for long games or a side deck card might not be the worst thing in the world. I don't know. Now we're going to go into more fusion spells that aren't just like polying something. So you've got Miracle Fusion, which uses your graveyard to summon an elemental hero fusion monster specifically. And then you've got Parallel World Fusion, which uses your banish pile and shuffling those banished monsters into the extra deck. Not extra deck, what am I saying? Never shuffle anything into the extra deck. Shuffle your banished pile into your main deck, and then you don't special summon any other monsters. But it can actually be really good synergy with Miracle Fusion, in that it might just be a tech to run, or maybe someone comes up with a crazy like Banisher of the Radiance elemental hero deck and abuses Parallel World Fusion somehow. I don't know. I think it'll be a cool card to have. Maybe a tech, maybe not played, but maybe good. I don't know. I already talked about the Philosopher's Stone. Oh no, I didn't. That was Transcendent Wings. Okay, so Philosopher's Stone is also a Karibo card. So if you have a Wing Karibo in the graveyard, you can add a poly to your hand for half your LP, and then you banish 3 copies of this card, and then target 1 monster on the field. It gains a bunch of attack points. This one's really weird. It takes too much to set up. It's probably not going to see play, but it's anime iconic-ish in that it won Jaden a boss battle. So, whatever. We'll predict that it's going to be in the box as box filler, alright? Skyscraper. Now, that's the field spell we talked about when we talked about Captain Gold. Let me tell you what it actually does. It's if an elemental hero monster attacks a monster with higher attack, that attacking monster gains 1,000 attack during damage calc only. This is really good because a lot of E-heroes have fairly low attack points. So for example, it can have a Prisma or a Stratos or even an Ocean run over something like Jinzo or Hadez or any Monarch that you popularly see. This can allow a lot of your standard heroes to kind of run over that kind of stuff. Skyscraper 2 Hero City is also a very, very interesting one. Now this doesn't have a card to search it that I'm predicting is going to be in the box, but it's still a very neat card in that if your heroes, like I said, some of them have like low attack points, so if they're destroyed by battle, this is something that can give you a lot of value. So especially think about that Solid Soldier Stratos combo from earlier, right? You end up with Stratos in defense mode. With only 300 defense, that thing's probably getting run over. And when it gets run over, if you have a hero city, you've essentially resummoned your Stratos again, and you've gotten just like stupid amounts of value out of it at this point. So potentially could be really, really good. Now stepping away from heroes for a second and back to the Wing Kuriboh stuff. Pluto Summoning Kuriboh, essentially just a stall card, quick play to get a Kuriboh or a Wing Kuriboh from your deck and add it to your hand or place it on the field, depending on whichever one's better. It's, you know, fine, whatever. I doubt it'll see much play except in, you know, trolled stall decks or whatever, but it's probably going to be there since Jaden played it. Fusion Reserve is actually really, really good for searching fusion materials. Now, if we get Emergency Call and Stratos and already have Rhoda, I don't know necessarily how impactful this card is going to be because you have enough search power already. You don't need a slow search power because you also have searches for Poly with Blazeman, and we already have Fusion Recycling Plant. So I don't know how good this is, especially because Recycling Plant already recycles your Poly, but I do expect it'll be in here, and it could actually be more useful for other fusion archetypes that aren't elemental heroes. So for that reason, I do predict it's going to be in here, and I think I put it in the Jaden deck just because I think Jaden did play it, though if I'm wrong, feel free to go in the comments and be like, you don't know anything about GX. Heroblast is a card to recycle normal hero monsters and pop a monster on the field with lower attack than it. Now, the strongest normal hero monster I'm predicting is Sparkman, so this card, like Oversoul, won't be very good until we get Neos or Neos Alias, but I still expect it to be in this box for a couple reasons. One, it could just be box filler, and two, honestly, the current meta of Speed Duels has monsters over 1600, right? But in the new meta, you never know. There could be a lot of monsters meta relevant that are actually less than 1600 attacks, so this card might end up being okay. Another battle trick for heroes if they're destroyed by battle is Hero Signal, where you can then special summon a level 4 lower element hero monster from your hand or deck. Now again, I think this card is too slow to be competitively viable, but it's probably going to be in the box because it's kind of iconic. Jaden played it a lot. Okay, Mirrorgate is another card that Jaden played that I thought of, and I always thought, the first time he played it, I thought, this card is so cool, why isn't this card played more often or whatever? But that was just like, you know, kid me not really understanding competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not really that great, right? You're essentially, it's essentially a battle trick. Like it's Sakuretsu armor with a little bit of damage attached to it. Like it's fine. Like it just looks cool when the monsters switch for a minute and then switch back, but it's not that special. Like it's maybe like memeable to play, but I don't see it seeing real competitive play. Sorry. All right. Now let's go into the fusion before I get into the side deck and explain what that means. So fusion monsters are elemental hero Dark Bright, which is Sparkman and Necroshade. So all these fusion monsters are going to have their materials already predicted to be in the box by me. That's why I try to get most of the fusions that include those monsters up there. So we'll see how many of these we actually get, because I don't know that we'll get all of them, but I think we should get a vast majority of them. All right, so Dark Bright inflicts piercing damage, and then if it's destroyed, you can actually destroy a monster back on your opponent's standard field, so it has a little graveyard effect as well, which is really cool. You've got Elemental Electrum, which actually is a pain in the ass to summon, since it's 4 uniquely named hero monsters, and it's honestly not that great. It's 4 attributes at the same time. It recycles the banish piles, and it gains 300 attack for pretty much every monster on the field. That's the same attribute as it, which it's 5 attributes total because it's light originally. It's just like whatever. It's box filler if we do get it, guys. Be honest. And then we have Flame Wingman, obviously the mascot of the box and of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy channel. The boy himself, definitely going to be there. Already confirmed. Is going to be awesome. I hope there is a skill specifically for Flame Wingman. I would absolutely love to see that. Element Hero Grand Merge combines 2 hero normal monsters. So if you take 2 level 4s, he could become 2400 attack, which is exactly enough to equal a most monarchs. And not only that, he also destroys a monster at battle. He can tribute itself and special summon a hero fusion monster in extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. But it can't attack monsters with equal or lower level than it, which is fine, because if you clear their last monster, you can just summon something to attack directly. So that's not the worst thing in the world. I do think we're going to get Grand Merge just because it's generic, yes, but the generic materials that it needs are like bad cards. So could be a thing, and we also could get a skill that has something to do with normal hero monsters, like the Hero Flash stuff I mentioned earlier. So because of those possibilities, if they want to push normal heroes, the vanilla heroes, they might give us Grand Merge as well. You've got Inferno, which is Heat and Lady Heat. Another reason I wanted Lady Heat to be in my predictions, because I wanted this. It's nothing special. It's just 2300. It gains attack if it battles a water monster. Meh. Box filler, right? Mariner is Bubbleman Avion. Again, it can attack your opponent directly if you don't have any back row, which is, again, meh. Mudball Man, nothing special. Bubbleman Clayman, 3k defense, meh. Necroid Shaman is an okay one. When it's summoned, you can pop a monster your opponent controls, and then you give them a monster from their graveyard if your choice. So it's not like free removal, but you can just give them some garbage monster in their graveyard if they have one that isn't really a threat to you. So it's not bad. And then you've got Plasma Vise, which is Sparkman and Blade Edge, and does piercing damage, and then it also discards to pop a monster. Now Plasma Vise, because of now that second effect is removal, which is really good, and then the piercing effect comes directly from Blade Edge, which is really cool as well. So Plasma Vise is actually a halfway decent fusion monster, and if we get a skill that makes it easier to just fusion summon any elemental hero, Plasma Vise might be one of the ones that's an actually viable option to go into sometimes. You've got Rampart Blaster, which is 2500 defense. It's Clayman Burst Burstinatrix. And then it can attack directly, but the damage is halved. It's not a big deal. It can attack in defense mode too. Oh wait, no, it can't attack directly. It can attack while in defense mode, sorry. But only if your opponent... Oh, it can only attack directly if it's in defense mode. God, I needed to have read that. Anyway, Shining Flare Wingman is just Flame Wingman with the Sparkman combined into it. It's alright. Again, it gets a big buff for every hero in your graveyard, 300 extra, and it has a Flame Wingman bird effect. So it can potentially like cripple your opponent's LP in one big attack. But again, it's okay. I mean, it needs a skill or a skill in general for fusion summons to be good, I think. Steam Healer, the same thing as Bersertrix and Bubbleman. It's meh. You gain life points when it destroys a monster in battle, whatever. Tempest is really hard to summon again because it's 3 materials, and then you can send, like, essentially tribute another card. You send it to the graveyard, and then one monster you control cannot be destroyed by battle while this card is facing on the field. So you can make himself immune to battle or another monster. It's not that good. It's not worth it for summoning it for 3 materials, honestly. Thunder Giant is actually one of the good ones. Because like Plasma Vise, it can pop an opponent's monster. Its effect is removal. It's Sparkman and Clayman, and you discard a card to target a face of monster with original attack less than the attack of 2400 and destroy that card. So it is limited, unlike Plasma Vise, into what it can destroy, but it's still not a terrible card if you just want to clear something off your opponent's board. You've got Wild Edge, which is Wild Heart Blade Edge, and then its ability is just they can attack a monster, every monster your opponent controls once each, which is cool against like those annoying stall decks that build walls. But it's very niche. I don't see it seeing too much competitive play, if any, at all. And that's the extra deck. And now we're going to talk about the side deck and what it means. Now, the side deck means cards that I believe, for one reason or another, are unlikely to appear in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City. I'm still stuck in the past. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Duel Academy box. And that is starting with Keeper of Dragon Magic. Now, the reason this card might actually appear is because A, it searches Polymerization or any fusion normal spells. Now that means it includes searching things like Miracle Fusion and Parallel World Fusion. Now I'm putting this in here, but this is going to apply to some cards that I'll talk about in other characters as well, because there are other fusion spells that aren't just element or hero related. So for that reason, this card could come in. And it also special summons a hero from the graveyard in this instance, if you look at all the fusions down there and it's specifically listed. So for fusion meta, Keeper of Dragon Magic could be really, really good. And for that reason, it could be in the box. It could. But I still think it's unlikely, just because when it was introduced in Duel Links, it became very abusable. But that was partly because of how strong the fusion spells were in Duel Links. And I don't think we're going to get fusion spells that strong. So honestly, it's kind of a 50-50. It just depends on how hard Konami wants to go, or not Konami as a whole, but whoever designed the Speed Duel box wants to go in the direction of having a fusion heavy meta. And let's talk about some fusions that are maybes and why. Actually, let's talk about some fusions that couldn't fit into the extra deck. I'm sorry, this is out of order now. I've got Elemental Hero Terra Firma, which is Ocean Woodsman. You tribute a hero monster and it gains its attack, which is, again, not competitively viable at all. You've got Elemental Hero Wild Wingman, Wild Heart Avion, and it discards to destroy back row, which is decent. I mean, we've got so we've got Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Now the reason you'll notice I put all these cards in here. So we've got E-Hero plus Water, E-Hero plus Dark, E-Hero plus Earth, Wind, Fire, and Light. Now I put all these in here because they all kind of always belong together in my mind. But the only one I really want to talk about is Absolute Zero, because it all started with this boy right here, okay? Let's just go over the other ones real quick, even though it's nowhere near as exciting to talk about those. So Escuridao, I always called him Escuriado. Huh, shows how much I can read. It just gains attack for each hero in the graveyard, nothing special. Gaia will suck up half of an opponent's monster's attack, again, nothing special. Tornado will cut your opponent's monster's attacks in half, meh. Noah Master, if it destroys a monster at battle, you draw a card, again, meh. Shining gains attack for each banished elemental hero, and when it's sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 banished hero monsters, add them to your hand. That's actually decent. Alright, so we've got Dandelion, who Jaden did play. Now, the reason this card is unlikely is, one, because Dandelion is stupid overpowered. It's been banned in the TCG forever, right? And 2, it's a banned card, like I just said. And in Speed Duels, we don't get banned cards as cards. If we do get them, we get them as skills. So for that reason, Dandelion is probably very unlikely to be in the box, which is I have it like all the way at the back end of like the not very likely cards here. But it's not completely at the end, because completely at the end is an even more broken banned card, Metamorphosis. Now, I did not want to talk about this card, I'm going to be honest with you, but one Lucas Clown Lord convinced me to do so. So I am. So this is for Lucas. Shout out to Lucas. He wants Metamorphosis, and he thinks one of the reasons is because GOAT players have wanted Metamorphosis, a reprint, a holo reprint, for a long time. So that might be a reason why they print it, but I think it would be a mistake just because we already have Thousand Eyes Restrict in Speed Duel, and that's kind of one of the cards that this card was abused with, to tribute any level 1 monster, even a token, to go ahead and grab yourself a TER and just remove anything your opponent might have, and then also stall out the game after that. So not very healthy, I think, for Speed Duels, but Lucas wanted me to talk about it and address it as a maybe So, maybe. Anyway, guys, man, that went by so fast. It's kind of long though. I talked for literally forever. So the bad news is this episode was kind of long, but the good news is this is probably going to be the longest episode because Jaden is of course the main character, and there's like a billion elemental heroes to talk about, including the fusions. So if you're bothered about the length of this episode, don't worry about it. The next ones will all be shorter. I guarantee it. Anyway, I'll see you next time for Aster Phoenix. Terra Master out.